Hello and welcome back to Serie A Spotlight. We're your hosts Jake
and Matt.
You know what time it is!
I can't tell you guys enough how much you've been my internal monologue when thinking about football for the last year.
Yes, amazing! We get to record while drinking some wine. Jake and I will have a very special soft spot for Salernitana.
We love him.
We love him. Stop zooming in on Allegri's face, bro. You're gonna make
How
me
are you
break.
exposing me?
Because you're gonna make me break, man.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Serie A Spotlight. This is episode 177 and we're your hosts Jake.
And Matt.
Here to run you through the managerial carousel that is happening in Serie A at the moment.
You'd think that when Serie A ends, so does the news to a certain extent, that it would at least slow down. But actually, I've never seen Twitter so populated with so much news concerning so many top teams in Serie A.
Absolutely. Similar to 2 seasons ago, there are lots and lots and lots of coaching changes, and we're going to be telling you the ones that have been made official. We will not be giving you profiles on the ones who are rumoured. For example, there's Davide Nicola at the moment. He's being rumoured to be joining Lecce, but it's not official, so we will not be going into him. You will only be hearing about official transfers in this episode.
Exactly. The way in which we'll be doing that is we'll start off by discussing Napoli keeping Conte and the domino effect which took place after that. Of course, because of that and because of Napoli not getting Allegri, Milan got Allegri, Juventus didn't manage to get their hands on Conte and they obviously went for Tudor. Inter got Chivu from Parma, Roma got Gasperini, and that was okayed essentially by Ranieri, who is now part of the management as like an advisor. Atalanta went for a similar profile to Gasperini in Juric, who has had his worst professional career since his career started.
Yeah, his worst professional season.
Full stop.
Absolutely. And before you turn it off, Juric and Gasperini, of course, are very similar in style. They're in philosophy, they're very different, but their style, their shape is quite similar, and we will get into that very soon.
Yeah. Just because their styles are similar doesn't mean their quality is similar.
Or their philosophy.
Exactly. So Lazio went back to Sarri, which is news that makes me really happy. I always felt like that was a really good fit, and it's really good to see him back. And Baroni hasn't taken too much of a step down as he's going to Torino, and I feel like he could really help elevate Torino. Baroni, we saw really promising things with him with Lazio, and of course when he was in his earlier days at Verona, so on and so forth. Cagliari have gone for a profile. Some of you might remember him as a footballer, Pisacane. I don't know too much about him, but Jake does.
Yes, this was a last minute thing. Fortunately, I had time to do some research on him. Unfortunately, you were grinding till the very last moments right before this episode. So
exactly.
Fabio Pisacane, who was made official only recently, has been named the Cagliari manager. We'll get into it all very soon.
Yes, after that we're also going to be touching upon the managerial situations taking place at Fiorentina. Of course, they did just lose, help me out,
Fiorentina, Palladino.
Many profiles are being linked to Fiorentina, including the likes of Pioli making a return, Gilardino, who used to be a player over there, Aquilani, who was also a player over there, more of that to come, Lecce, who are linked to Davide Nicola, Parma, who we don't quite yet have an update on after they, of course, lost Chivu, who had just renewed. That means nothing in football nowadays, man.
Yeah.
And the Nazionale, where crazy things are happening, but we'll save them to the end because we are Serie A Spotlight, and the spotlight is on Serie A. But we will be touching upon that soon.
Exactly. Very good. Shall we get going? We have to do our media partners actually first.
Exactly.
Up to you, brother.
This day and this week more than ever, a huge shout out to Benevo Bid, who now have a huge selection, a new really exciting selection that we know that we're not allowed to share yet, so do check our link in bio to check them out, get your bids in, nice and early, and sport some fantastic merch signed from some top players around the world. You guys will see who we're talking about once you get on there. And a massive shout out, because thanks to them we have met the lovely Materazzi.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, obviously. You guys will be seeing a Materazzi kit over there. I don't know if they're gonna love me for that, but we actually met Materazzi, and we met him twice, man.
He is ginormous. He is quite skinny, eh? I was quite shocked at how thin he is, but what a nice guy, man. He was always one of those people who I demonized, right?
Of course, he was the enemy.
Yeah, the enemy, literally public enemy number one for us Milan fans, but such a nice and humble guy, to be honest.
Really nice, man. Really nice. Gives you the time of day. We just had like 20 seconds the first time around to take photos, but like you could genuinely tell by a person's face whether they're hating the small talk and whether they want it to be done quickly. But this guy was taking hundreds of photos, and he was just in good spirits. Even in the second day when we went for the signatures, he took time to speak to everyone.
Yeah.
No, lovely shout out to Materazzi. Unfortunately, no, we won't be launching an episode with Materazzi, but hopefully, I don't know, sometime soon. So yes, thank you to our media partners, Benevobid. Check them out. Most proceeds go to charity, to Puttino Cares. So click on the link in our bio. Of course, if you guys are new here, do follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube, and rate us 5 stars on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. We typically do weekly episodes covering every single match, every single team, every single week, but it is, of course, the summer period, but we are here to keep you updated nonetheless. If you really love us, become a patron. It's $3.99 a month, and you can win a free kit if you win our fantasy league. So it's a good time to join, because you'll stay updated with our lit group chat.
Yes, and Joey D's kit is on the way. It's been purchased, yes, it's been ordered. We are waiting for it to arrive, so you can send us a picture in it, and he will be inducted as the first ever Serie A Spotlight Fantacalcio winner, right? Goes down into the Hall of Fame. We should have a section of that in our podcast. We should talk to Jabroni about it.
Jabroni.
So to keep him, of course,
anonymous,
yes,
for the time being. Yes, become a patron, because we have a producer that we have to pay. So
yes, starting next week, hopefully, if all goes well.
Yes. Let's jump into today's episode, brother. Let's start off with, of course, not a managerial change, but a very welcomed continuation of Conte at Napoli. Just to keep you guys updated, of course, ADL seemed like he was moving towards Allegri, because he just assumed that Conte was going to move on and entertain a Juve bid. He kept his eyes close on Allegri and had even been flirting with him and speaking to him, and that almost seemed like a done deal. Conte took his chance and said, listen, if I'm going to stay, I need I need like 200 million to spend in the summer. I need the player wages to go up. I need the training facilities to be looked at, and a bunch of guarantees. And it seems like ADL and Conte have found some kind of middle ground, and Conte will be staying on.
So we don't know, of course, the details exactly as to what the requests were, but we are very aware through just absorbing football for the past God knows how long, that Conte is very demanding, right? So while those demands might be perhaps potentially exaggerated by the media, I'm sure that there were demands that were laid out on the table for ADL to take into consideration. I do think that the Napoli fans touched Conte's heart in the celebrations, and Conte had a great time managing them this season, to be honest with you, because I was convinced he would leave, to be honest, because he can't really up this season, if you know what I mean. Going back to back with Napoli is very difficult. Doing a double maybe when going for the Coppa Italia as well, but Champions League is a stretch, especially for Conte, who has never won it. So I was surprised to see him stay there and not perhaps go to another team where he could win it with another team.
But he does find himself in a very good position, Conte.
How so?
Because if you look at 2nd to 8th, excluding Juve because they're sticking to Tudor, all of them have a new manager with a new system. There's going to be a lot of change, and Napoli have that sense of continuity under one of the greatest managers in Serie A history, if not the greatest Serie A manager in history, and plus his demands are being met. So he's being able to upgrade the team to attract better names. Of course, we got the here we go on Kevin De Bruyne, who's a massive signing. Of course, he's not going to play 3 times a week, if you get what I mean. He's injury prone and not at his prime anymore.
Yeah.
But still a fantastic player
Of course,
to have.
totally.
Like he's a nailed on starter. This is fucking Kevin De Bruyne we're talking about, and they're gonna get plenty more names together with that. So I think that element of continuity and the chaos going on around the other teams puts them in a really good advantage.
Absolutely. Continuity, am I right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, this is a massive advantage, right? When everyone is going through all these changes and growing pains. Napoli have a spine, they've got a core, they've got Conte, who's going to start his second season, who's going to have his second preseason over there, can bring in the players he wants. And De Bruyne was literally a gift. No, thank you for the Scudetto. Here's Kevin De Bruyne.
Not a bad gift.
Yeah, not a bad gift at all. Yes, so last season, of course, Napoli ended up getting 24 wins, 10 draws and 4 losses in a season that would have seen teams in most Serie A seasons finish second, right? I think with 82 points.
Yes.
However, of course, the others didn't perform up to their usual standards, particularly Inter, who finished the season with 81 points. But what was impressive about this Napoli side was their goal difference. They only conceded 27 goals, by far the fewest in the league. And the defenses are what win you titles. And keep in mind that for most of the season, Juan Jesus and Rahmani were playing at the back.
Exactly, or Oliveira as a centre-back, because Buongiorno was injured for the majority of the season, and then Juan Jesus picked up an injury as well. So they actually won the league with Oliveira as a centre-back.
Absolutely.
No, of course, the disadvantage that Conte has this season is that he's in the Champions League. Because he's one of the only managers in the world that you can look at and say, oh, that's a disadvantage. Which gives a bit of an advantage to Milan, for example, who play once a week. But I do still think that if they get the right reinforcements and the right depth, which seems like it's something that's completely doable, that they're in a very good position to go back-to-back, man. And to make it 3 titles in 4 years. That would be huge.
Yes, next season is going to be very open because of the cloud of vagueness, of uncertainty that looms over every single team.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Shall we jump to Juve?
Yes, we can. They decided to stick with Tudor.
Yes. I don't think that was their first option, because I think they were trying their best to get their hands on Conte. Huh?
Yes. On Conte, and then potentially... No, never mind. On Conte, yes.
Yes.
And in my opinion, the fact that Conte decided to stay, I like the Tudor pick for Juve. They stay with what they know. There are no clear upgrades. Tudor had a pretty underrated time at Juve. He managed 9 games. He got 5 wins, 3 draws, and only 1 loss.
He had 1 KPI. He had 1 goal. And that was to get them the 4th spot.
Yeah.
Well, of course, he lost 1 game with them, and that was almost enough to ruin that goal for him. But he did... And he did a good job at like steadying that ship and getting good results, cleaning up that defense after those shambolic back-to-back losses that Motta had, and just steadied the ship. I don't think that Juve played phenomenal football under him by any stretch of the imagination. I still think that there's a lot of improvements to be made, but he has definitely earned the extension. So his initial interim contract was automatically extended until June 30th, 2026 upon achieving Champions League qualification. But Juve could have terminated him for just 1 million. So if they were going to get Conte or Fabregas or anyone like that, they could have easily terminated his contract comfortably. They got Champions League. It wouldn't be fair to use the money he won them to terminate his contract, but sure. It's a 1-year deal, effectively, so this still means that he's under pressure to achieve, success at Juve. He's on a 1-year contract now, and he needs to prove himself.
Of course, which goes to show that Juve in reality don't have absolute faith in him to hand him the project, to hand him the keys just yet. They're almost testing the waters, right? They're like, you earned yourself another year, but no more than that. Tudor, it's a shame, right? He's got a bit of. He does very well as an interim manager. I'm not too sure how he did at Marseille, but I had heard decent things.
I heard he did
with
good
Czech,
things with Marseille.
When he took over at Lazio, he managed 9 games. He got 5 wins, 3 draws, and 1 losses. That's a similar record to this.
I think Tudor, keep in mind, he's still a young manager as well. We've seen him. We've seen his teams playing really good football. And he is a motivator, he's a man manager, he's someone that puts his hand on your shoulder. And I think at this point, he's also played for the club. I think at this point, if you don't manage to get a Conte, if you don't manage to get a Gasperini, if you don't manage to get a Fabregas, he's the guy to go for. And believe me, they did the best thing. Because if they don't get those guys, who are you going to go for? Palladino and take the same risk that you took with Motta,
Exactly.
for example. This is continuity. They not only get a pre-season with him, but they go to the Club World Cup with him.
Yeah.
And again, it's just continuity. It's also not a shocking change to the system that they played, not only under Motta, but even under Allegri, formation-wise, because he plays a 3-5-2 or a 3-4-2-1. Of course, he doesn't really use wingers. He'd rather use the likes of Yildiz and Coop Miners behind the striker, even Colomwani over there. But, you know, it's an aggressive and intense style that he plays. He enjoys a high press.
Very direct.
Very, very direct. He dominates territorially and he enjoys physical players.
Yes.
So this is definitely a style that could maybe not traditionally suit Juve, but Juve could definitely use that.
Absolutely, because he solidifies the defense, but is very aware that the crowd needs to be entertained and the goals need to be scored, right? So, in fact, at this time at Marseille, he said, I want courageous and intensive football, not only uniquely based on the defense. I want people who come to the stadium to be entertained and not disappointed. So,
A man of the people.
A man of the people, a man of the crowd, a crowd
Exactly.
pleaser. I have his stats from Marseille after a very intense Googling session. 48 games with Marseille, 27 wins, 8 draws and 13 losses. 82 goals scored, 51 goals conceded with a goal difference of plus 31.
Not too bad.
Not bad,
Not too
not
bad,
bad at all.
considering I don't know what season that was in and who was
it
flying
was
over there.
2022 to 2023. Of course, we're not too versed on the French league, so we're not
No.
going to pretend that we know what that means, but decent, yeah. Definitely in the green.
There are some cons that come with Tudor. I mean, that record isn't perfect. The 13 losses and the 10 draws, that's 23 matches where he failed to get a victory in the French league, right?
Yes.
So it's by no means perfect. Did I get that right? Because
Yes,
I'm simply checking that.
It's 13 losses, but of course, what can be said is it was his first season in a league where he doesn't know the environment, right?
Absolutely.
Whereas in Italy, for example, he's managed the likes of Udinese, Hellas Verona, Lazio, so he knows the ins and outs of the league a lot
That
more.
is about to be my point as well. He wasn't the first choice, and B, he does have limited top experience. With Marseille, you get a good sample size of that within the French league, but that's, the French league, PSG win the league. You know what I mean? It's not like that 4 or 5 horse race that you get in Serie A, which he's now in. And with in the Serie A, the only top team he's managed is Lazio, and it was for a short term because he came in to replace Sarri for a couple of months. So he doesn't have that experience. Obviously, the only reason I'm saying that is because we need to present the pros and we need to present the cons as well. I think this is the best thing they could have done if they weren't going to get a great name that almost gives them certain guarantees, even though guarantees almost don't exist in football. They could have definitely gone for some other safe options, like the ones we mentioned earlier. But respect that Comolli came out as well, their new GM/sporting director. He came in and he put all of his trust into Tudor. He said it publicly, and that will give him a nice little boost to his confidence. Now he has a competition to go through, then pre-season, and we'll see what the hiring process is like with the new sporting director as well.
Absolutely, yes. I think this is a move that Tudor more than anything deserves, because he's been grinding from 2013, and he's had gigs at Hajduk Split, at Galatasaray. Of course, he managed to get a 39% win rate at Hellas Verona on a full season. That's extremely difficult to do. Granted, they were a little bit better than the Hellas Verona we know nowadays. Back then. But even at Udinese, a flat 50% win rate was exactly what you come to expect from Udinese. But in the last 3 seasons in a row, he had a win rate of 55% and above. He had a 56% win rate at Marseille, technically.
What I like about Tudor, man, as well, is like you alluded to. Tudor, no one's given him any favors, Tudor. He's grinded the entire way. That's why the whole drive thing was symbolic more than anything.
Yeah.
Because no one has done him any favors in his career.
That drive thing, it was that he drove
from Croatia or wherever he was
to sign the contract, right?
Yes.
That's Juve. That's fucking crazy.
It was a show of hard work and determination from his end, right? He could have definitely gotten on a bloody plane, but it was that show, and I think it was symbolic. I think it was metaphoric because no one has done him any favors in his career. He's always had it hard, but he's a hustler, and he'll work himself to death to make this Juve team succeed.
Absolutely, yes. Shall we move on to some fresh profiles?
Yes, just let us know what you guys think. Was it a good decision that Juve decided to keep Tudor? Are there some profiles that we're missing? Let us know in the comments. Shall we jump to Milan? Is that what you meant by fresh profiles?
Ooh, yeah. Anyone, to be honest, they're all fresh. I mean, Allegri isn't the freshest manager in the league, you know, but
Yes.
of course he's fresh to Milan as it's been 11 years, right, since we last saw Allegri on the Milan bench. You know, fun fact is me and Allegri lost our hair together.
You did, man.
We did.
You
11 years ago, he had hair and I had hair.
And you kind of had the same hairstyle going on as well, you and Allegri. No?
Yeah, back
You know,
then.
it was like very short and kind of like moving it almost to a side, a bit of a flow.
A bit of a comb over thing going on, yes, exactly. And nowadays he lets his grow out a little bit more. I'm not really all about that, so I like to keep it a little bit cleaner. Yeah. Allegri has been coaching in Italy since 2003.
Fuck.
By the way, yes. And he's grinded through the lower ends of the league, of course, and worked his way up. Yeah, shall we start with a bit of our opinion, or shall we go straight into the facts? And
Let me just say, obviously, massive change in the way that Milan are working. To a point, someone like Allegri, putting him on a 2-year contract with an option to extend for a further 2 years, paying him 5 million a season. This is a huge change, since we've seen the likes of Conceição and Fonseca take over for around 900k to 1 million per season.
Yeah.
So they have listened and they have invested in a sporting director in Ilietare and a top manager in Allegri to steady the ship as well. That's pretty much the point I wanted to make. Of course,
absolutely.
got rid of Conceição and brought in Allegri. Let's get into our opinions, bro.
For the first time in a while, Milan have prioritized the coach. And I think that is literally the most obvious thing you need to do when building a team, right? The most important employment is the coach.
I mean, look at Napoli last season.
Yeah, no shit. And if you're going to spend, 40 million on a striker and 30 million on a midfielder and all this shit, it doesn't matter if the coach isn't one of the best in the league. You're not going to challenge if he's not one of the best. So they've gone for, I think, the safest available option in Allegri. I mean, it's not a sexy name. He is a notorious result-oriented pragmatist who has, the whole corto muso philosophy, of course, that doesn't matter by how much you win, just like in horse racing, if you win by just a short snout.
Corto muso is exactly that snout. Sorry, you have a fluff on your beard. It's been pissing me off.
Damn.
Nice.
Yes, he will prioritize balance. He will try to fix Milan's leaky backline. He demands positional awareness, discipline, and respect. Possession will be slower than it was this season, but the ball will move with purpose, and most goals will come through individual brilliance, which is similar to what we saw, for example, under, to be honest, Pioli, Conceição. It's not something completely new.
But different in a more effective manner, right? That at the end of the day he prioritizes results, and this is the point, because Twitter is very mixed on this decision. What I'll say is, what do you want, Milan fans? You want Milan to go for Palladino? You want Milan to go for... I mean, De Zerbi was a good shout as well, but you want Milan to go for Motta, who was being mentioned as well. Milan need 2 seasons where the ship is steadied. Because if they don't get that and they get another decision wrong, they risk another banter era. With these owners and with the wrong man in charge, with a pushover in charge, Milan risk complete failure under this ownership. What I'll say is that these 2 signings that Milan have made, forget about Reinders leaving, forget about the Mannian situation, forget about the Theo situation, and I'll explain why I want people to forget about that. Is because Milan have made the 2 biggest signings they could have made. They've listened, the ownership, to credit where it's due. People said, you can't get a manager with a lack of league experience, pay them 1 million without any top flight experience and expect them to do bits. Okay, you're right. We're sacking these guys, we're bringing in Allegri for 5 million per season. Okay? Fair enough. You can't operate a team with a sporting director without a sporting director. Okay, fair enough, you're right. The guys who hired our shit, we even sold them and tried to spice things up in the January market and listened more to the coach. Here's Ilyetare, one of the best sporting directors in the past 20 years in Serie A. You can't have the manager having 0 say on the transfer market. You're right. You know what, Allegri, what do you think about Ricci? Should we even be going for Ricci?
Yeah.
And Allegri steps
like,
in
nah.
over there. He's like, nah.
He's like, no, bring
Maybe
me
we should
Rabiot.
go for... And that's another thing. Of course, it sucks that Reinders is gone. It sucks that the situations of Mannian and Theo's contract have led to a situation where Milan are losing them for less than the actual value of the player. I'm losing my point. Yes, it sucks, but Allegri is going to sign players that fit his system. Because if Allegri doesn't have the players to play his system, we might as well have any other coach. We might as well have a coach that's better with playing with our current squad. But you look at Rabiot, you look at Guendouzi, you look at these profiles that are coming up. Stop thinking about them as a replacement for Reinders. It's not a replacement for Reinders. It is Reinders' position is being replaced. The misbalance that Milan had in the midfield last year, how people would walk through the midfield immediately, was because Fofana and Reinders are not a double pivot.
Yeah,
They're not a double pivot. But if you get a Guendouzi or a Rabiot with a deep-lying midfielder and then, I don't know, another profile, that's more of a balance. Or even if you get... Look at Lazio, Guendouzi and Rovella. It works.
Yes, bro. You made very good points.
Sorry for my rant.
No problem at all. So Allegri, I think, in his tenure recently at Juve was very underrated, right? Last season at Juve, he managed 38 games. He had 19 wins, 14 draws, and 5 losses. That's 71 points, finishing 3rd and winning the Coppa Italia, which isn't a bad season considering all the turmoil going on at Juve at the time. Right now, Milan, you made a very good point that the Milan management has learned. I think they have been forced to learn and to kind of understand that the manager is the thing that needs to be given priority in any team. You can't be signing players worth 70 million, well in Milan's case 40 million on Jimenez and then 30 million on a midfielder and then 20 million on a keeper. It doesn't matter how much you spend if the coach isn't safe, if the coach doesn't have the experience or the time to build a good system. So finally they've understood that, or rather they've been forced to understand that. 5 million a season, they've given him quite a long contract from what it seems. So yes, hopefully now the management will also learn to keep their word, because obviously a few months ago they were asked about Reinders' sale and Furlani and Moncada both said that he's not going anywhere.
That we don't need to sell top players.
And that we don't need to sell top players, yes. But in reality, of course, that was not what they did. Now, Tonali's sale led to Reinders. Hopefully Reinders' sale leads to potentially the next best thing. However, as you said, I think balance should be prioritized. Maybe a like-for-like replacement is not necessary. We need to see what Allegri wants to do and give him the tools he needs to succeed.
Yeah, I don't think like-for-like is necessary. I think whoever Allegri desires in that starting 11, because if Milan are going the Allegri route, like I said, they should go all in. They should go for the Allegri route. Now, the Allegri route brings about, like we said, we keep on mentioning the word stability. And what at least I'm meaning when I say stability is a team that is balanced and competitive and who are actually motivated and who are playing for the club, understand the weight of the shirt and have trust in the manager and, you know, are delivering results that are worthy of Milan. And getting top four. I think Milan need to be in the Champions League.
Yes.
Milan are a Champions League team. Milan have 7 Champions Leagues. How can they not be in the Champions League?
Yeah.
Can Allegri be the guy to take Milan beyond that? Or is he just the stabilizer in between?
No, so Allegri is the second best active manager in Serie A at the moment, right? One of the top 2. It's difficult to even say who's better than who, right? It's Conte and Allegri when it comes to Serie A. Of course, Conte has the fact that he's done it recently. Allegri has won Serie A 6 times. He's won the Coppa Italia 4 times, Super Coppa Italiana 3 times, and has made the Champions League final twice in recent years. I think that this is more than a stopgap, especially when you consider again the length of the contract, the salary. I think this is the management trying to build something, right? And maybe they saw the behavior of some of the players on the pitch last season, and they realized that they need to put someone there who
Behaves worse than them.
who commands respect, though.
Yes.
He commands respect. You're not gonna fucking take the piss with Allegri because he'll bench you and you'll never see the light of day again. You know, he's not Fonseca where you cannot join the cooling break. He would have just taken off half his clothes, run up to them, grab them by the ear, and drag them
Literally,
to the bench. You know, he is.
Literally.
And he's already said it, like, I want to instill an environment of respect in this team. So yes, I think this is a decent project. Of course, when it goes badly for Allegri, it looks really ugly because his football is a little bit boring, right? It's super pragmatic, super result-oriented, Cortomuso, of course. So when things don't go well, it's very easy to hate and to shit on him. However, hopefully he can get off to a good start, playing once a week, prioritize that, and hopefully Milan can even go for a Scudetto push next season. Who knows?
I mean, playing football once a week, hey, man, Napoli did it from 10th. Of
Yes.
course, they had won it the season before that. Milan won the league, 4 years ago? I'm not going to sit here and fancy Milan to win the league next year at all. I think the goal is top 4, and Allegri is very well aware of that. Let's just say things might play into Milan's favour as the season goes on, and I think the fact that they have no European football might play into their favour, the same way it played into Napoli's favour, right?
Yes, exactly. And in reality, man, when people say, well, what the hell, Allegri, what a lack of ambition, this management has already shown us that they're not willing to give exciting managers or managers with offensive philosophies or new managers to the league the time of day to actually grow and adapt and learn. Because Fonseca was fired in 6 months. Conceição was brought in, won the Super Coppa immediately, didn't lose to Inter a single time out of 5, and was sacked as well. You know, I mean, was it the right decision or not? It's irrelevant. The thing is, when you bring in a manager, that is your plan. That he's the manager. He's managing your team. You're meant to give him some time, right? At least, unless it's a total disaster, which I don't think any of them were a total disaster, to be honest with you. No. So the fact that they are so cutthroat, bringing in an old guard like this is almost the safest thing, the closest thing you can get to a guarantee.
And it's like I alluded to earlier. They hired Fonseca and they hired Conceição as coaches. They hired Allegri as a manager. Yeah. I say that because Zlatan said that. He said, we don't need a manager. Like, we make the decisions. We need a coach who looks after the squad and the starting 11. That's another thing that Milan learned, right?
Yeah.
They need to invest in a manager with Serie A experience. This is the guy that you mentioned that Conceição beat Inter multiple times. Allegri has played Inter. He's played Roma. He's played Lazio. And he's played them very recently. He was Juve's manager, not this season that just happened, the one before.
Of
You
course.
know what I mean? He's played Sarri's Lazio.
Of
and all
course,
these
yes.
guys.
He's got a lot of experience, right? Been there, done that.
And he's played Conte and multiple like Coppa Italia finals and stuff like that, you know?
Of course. Yes. Considering he's been coaching actively in Italy since 2003, he would know everyone. Absolutely.
I'm optimistic, personally. I still want to see what Milan do in the market. Another thing I want to mention before we move on is right now, you're going to hear more news about departures than arrivals for Milan. Why? Because the market is only opened up for teams that are participating in the Club World Cup. These are the clubs like City, who are buying grinders. It's a club like Chelsea, who are looking at who were looking at Mañana. They managed to reach an agreement.
City
Clubs
bought
like
4
Atletico.
players in preparation for the Club World Cup, and 2 of them are delicious. Reinders and Cherky, man. What a player.
Insane. So right now you're going to hear more about departures. Right now, Milan are making money to set their budget. What's our budget going to be? So I if I could just plead for something, and I'm a frustrated fan, just like most, is let's be patient, because you're depressing the fuck out of me, man. Like the most terrible season just ended, and we're already so negative about the next one. Let's chill out. Let's see what's gonna happen. 2 massive signings have taken place.
But how American is this recruitment system, or how lazy are the journalists? I'm not sure which one it is, but Milan are looking at Retegui. Yes, the guy who scored the most goals. Milan are looking at Vanya. It's Villar, the guy with the most clean sheets, or Vanya, the one with the most saves. They're just looking at top percentiles. Like, I'm just taking Cambiaso there.
Allegri's looking at Rabiot. No shit. Allegri has Rabiot in his basement. Like,
exactly. What's next? Deschilio to make a Milan return.
Okay, I think we can move on to Inter.
Yes.
Inter have lost Inzaghi after he spent 4 years. It was a mutual termination. I think Inzaghi was bound to leave after that loss against PSG in the final, most devastating loss in Champions League history, in a Champions League final history rather. His term at Inter was more mixed than people think. A lot of people think it's positive because he made 2 Champions League finals, he won a Scudetto and he won 2 Coppa Italias. I think that Inter entered the past 4 seasons as Scudetto favourites. Yes. And they won the Scudetto once in that period, and they came runners-up twice in that period. And
missing out because of individual mistakes, little details, and literally like at the wire moments, inevitable mistakes. Yes, exactly. The Bologna game.
Of course, Bissek with the amount of errors that he made. So
one season against Napoli, one season against Milan.
Yeah. So Inzaghi's gone off to Al Hilal. Of course, there's a problem with their aging squad. Of course, they've done a great job, Inter, with their limited budget, so to say, because there are allegations and whatever with their limited budget. They've really managed to hire smart, but not hire long term. Like with the likes of when they brought in Arnautovic, and when they brought in Dzeko, and when they brought in Hakan, when they brought in Mkhitaryan, and when they brought in Acerbi.
Yeah.
Aging players, experienced players, Devray. Aging players, experienced players, that now they've kind of reached their boiling point with the amount of matches that Inter have to play. Now there's the Club World Cup, for example. They're going to play it with this retirement home. Inter had the opportunity to go for a manager now that can change that, a manager that can bring in some young talent and start to build this new kind of identity without changing too much. They've opted for Kivu because they didn't manage to get Fabregas. Multiple reports saying Fabregas didn't want to because he wants to do great things at Como. Also reports saying that Fabregas said yes and Como said no. We won't get into that. We're not journalists.
Yeah.
But Kivu,
yes. Crash helmet Kivu.
Yes. 2.5 million per season, 2-year contract.
Fantastic hairline under that helmet. Has to be said.
Transplant. Has to be. I guess. I don't know.
I don't remember. With the helmet.
With
right?
the helmet.
Maybe he just had the perfect hairline.
Sorry, I'm making claim. He might defamation. Sorry. Not that there's anything wrong with it.
Yeah.
I just made it sound like I have a hair transplant. I don't.
Yeah.
But it'd be a shit one if I did.
So yes, Kivu is, to be honest, a bit of a surprising hire from where I stand, of course, and from where most stand, to be honest, because he's only ever officiated 13 matches in Serie A, and they were with Parma. He had 3 wins, 7 draws, and 3 losses to keep them up. Now, we're talking about a completely different playing field over here. We're talking about expectations to finish top 4 at the minimum. We're talking about managing Champions League and Coppa Italia, not getting embarrassed.
Yeah.
We're talking about dealing with the pressure and the environment of a top club. However, to his advantage, he has been the coach of Inter's youths from 2016 to 2024. He's climbed the age groups. He knows the players very well inside out at that level, so he might be able to promote some and use them. And he knows the ins and outs of the club and maybe the politics of the club and how it runs, etc. That's a massive advantage.
It's worked with other teams. It's worked with Real Madrid with Zidane that did pretty much the exact same thing without the minnow side in between. It's worked with Guardiola in the same way. It's worked with Xabi Alonso to a certain degree, except he's managed to go all the way with the minnow side. So it can work.
Yes. What we've seen so far from Kivu as a managerial profile, as a style, is that he seems to be very direct and less possession heavy. He plays vertically, counter-attacking football. He likes to play wide, wide, which is good for Inter, to be honest. Maybe doesn't need to change much.
3 at the back system.
Strong tactical discipline in defense. And maybe he can use some of these veterans and promote some youths to create an exciting blend of a squad, to be honest. To be honest, I don't know what to expect from him. He might surprise everyone, but in reality, if I had to bet money, I think that it's going to be a bit of a disappointment for them.
It
Just
could
going
be
out on a limb here.
the first season is definitely not going to be, like, I don't think Inter go in as favourites, and it's the first time, like we said, in around 4 years that Inter won't go into the season as favourites, even though they still technically have one of the strongest teams. It's a manager that's not completely new to the team. He's been there. He's worked with some of these players as well, even from the youth ranks, for example. Bless you. He plays a similar style in the sense that as a formation, we've seen him play the 3-5-2, we've seen him play the 3-4-3 at Parma. And one thing that really struck me about him, because we had different opinions. We know he did well at Parma. You thought he did much better than I thought he did.
I thought for a first coaching gig in Serie A, I thought he did a very good job.
And in hindsight, you're right.
To stabilize Parma's defense and keep them dangerous going forward, and to only get 3 losses in 13 matches.
In hindsight, you're right. I just have very high expectations of Parma. You know this. I think they have a really good squad, and I think they're super slept on. But one thing I saw from Kivu that I enjoyed was his adaptability. He adapts his game. He didn't go in with the same formation every single game. And this is a pro he has that perhaps Inzaghi didn't have. When they went up against Inter, it was the first time they started with Boni and Pellegrino up front to combat the big, strong 3-man defense that Inter have. And they managed a draw.
Smart.
Over there. They came back from behind. So he's not a joke.
Yeah.
He's not... They could have gone for many different managers. Bro, there's Motta, who played for them as well.
It's true.
Motta's an Inter legend. Why did they go for Kivu and not Motta? He's cheaper, sure. More readily available, perhaps. He had just signed a contract at Parma. Motta's a free agent.
Has been there for a while. Has been there for ages.
Club DNA, player knowledge, an element of tactical continuity, fan support. Oh, that's the reason, man. That's it.
Fans getting behind him.
He won the bloody treble.
Yes,
at Inter. It's the same way, like when Roma were in shambles, they got De Rossi. When Roma were in shambles, they got Ranieri.
Of course.
Someone the fans can get behind.
It's true, but he has divided the fan base completely, because some fucking fans obviously are worried. This guy's managed 13 games at Parma, and now you're going into the Champions League with him on your bench. You know what I mean? It's a little bit scary.
It's giving me Milan Brocchi, Milan Inzaghi, Milan Gattuso.
It's
Milan
giving me
Seedorf.
Kim Jong-un becoming the dictator.
Holy shit.
Just not qualified at all, just like, you are my son, here are the keys. Do what you want. Yeah. No.
He is inexperienced. It's a very high bar. I think, though, man, with Inter, that he's just in good hands with what's his name? He's watching the game with one eye. Marotta. Because he's under a management that have handled turbulent situations before.
Mm.
And the recruitment is sound.
Okay.
Yeah. He's in a good environment. Yes and no, because the last two managers they've made it work with are, of course, experienced dons in Conte and Inzaghi, So it is a shock. But I think for a manager, he's in a good environment for it. They're experienced.
But look at, if you word it this way, bro, look at this. Do you trust Kivu to finish top 4 in a season where where 4 of the clubs around him have Conte, Allegri, Sarri, and Gasperini? Do you trust that Kivu can finish ahead of these guys? Because I don't think so. I don't think so at all, to be honest.
Not completely.
It would be very surprising, I think.
Not completely. It's always tough to say after
it is tough to say.
A team loses a manager who's been there for so long. How much of it is the camaraderie between the players? How much of it is the upper management, and how much of it is the orchestrator on the bench? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We know how important that guy is. We know how important a top manager is. So, of course, there are going to be growing pains. But who's to say that he's not the next big thing?
He might be.
He has promised.
It's a risk.
3 wins at Parma
absolutely.
in that small space, and he kept them from getting relegated.
He might be the fucking next Zidane, But what I'm saying is that there are some names in Serie A who have become staples and mainstays, like the likes of Italiano as well, who I didn't even mention, is someone who knows the league very well and who has grown into a very good manager, quite frankly, a very good manager.
Sought after as well.
Yeah, very sought after. And I don't know, Inter giving the keys to Kivu is surprising for me, but we'll see. We'll see what he can do, and we'll see what kind of transfer market they give him as well.
It's a risky one. It's cool that we get to see him in the Club World Cup beforehand.
It is.
He gets a good run with the team.
And if he wins it,
he's gonna be
Christmas, because they're gonna make like 100 plus million.
Inter are not gonna win it, bro. Inter are not gonna win the Club World Cup. They're exhausted, bro. They're 96 years old. They're so tired, bro. I can't believe it's so unlucky for them that after that miserable season where they lost out at the end of pretty much everything, now they have to play this fucking Club World Cup. And someone's gonna get injured, bro.
I was looking, the bookies' favourites for the Club World Cup are Real Madrid, PSG, Man City, Bayern Munich, and Chelsea. Those are the top 5 favourites, yeah.
I could have guessed. Oh, this is an interesting one. Who should have been rating these appointments each?
We've only done
3. Rate Juve holding on to Tudor.
With all things considered, I'll give it 7.
I'm gonna go 7 as well.
Nice.
7's fair.
Now you go first,
yes.
Copy me.
Milan getting Allegri. I'm gonna go for an 8. I won't go much higher than an 8
as well. Fucking hell.
Stop. No way. Inter Kivu. This is I'm gonna go for a 5.
Oh my, bro, this is ridiculous. I was gonna say 5 as well. Obviously, we don't know. From where we're standing, it's a 5. Sitting rather.
And it's not an experienced manager, blah blah blah.
Maybe they know something we don't.
So let's talk about Roma, and let's talk about Roma getting Gasperini, the man that was okayed essentially by Ranieri. Let's talk and then we rate. So he signed. This is, I feel like every single manager is either on a 1-year contract like Tudor, or everyone else is on a 2-year contract. Gasperini is on a 3-year contract at Roma. He's on a 3-year contract until June 30th, 2028. And this signals a belief in a substantial project. Of course, we know what Gasperini did at Atalanta from a project perspective over his 9-year reign at them.
We're talking 2016 to 2025, 326 Serie A matches managed, 173 wins, 76 draws and 77 losses. Now, please remember, Atalanta weren't the Atalanta we knew when he first took over. We know when he first took over. Yeah.
2016 Atalanta
Exactly.
were very, very different, bro.
Absolutely.
They were a slightly below mid-table team.
Exact. But yeah. Also, fun fact that Atalanta here earned roughly 3 million net per season. We don't know how much he's making at Roma yet. I don't think it's been released.
It's not disclosed yet.
But in his contract, he had a lucrative 3% bonus on player resale profits, which basically inflated his income to around 9 million net.
Holy fuck.
Of course.
He had that. He had that at Atalanta.
Yeah, that's the clause.
Insane.
Which means
bro.
that it incentivized him to kind of really take recruitment seriously.
And that he did, huh?
Yeah.
That he did. Look, I think Roma, I have a really mixed opinion on this. So I think Gasperini has been an incredible manager throughout his career. Of course, he's flopped at certain places, like Inter, for example. What does Gasperini give you? Gasperini gives you what he is renowned for as his Gasperiniana. No, it's an incredibly high energy, fluid, and a chaotic attacking style of football, and modern. And then the shape that he manages to implement off the ball is great.
Yeah.
He needs players that are good and fluid on the ball, but players that are gonna quickly get back into position and be disciplined. And if they don't, he's gonna go after them, and he's gonna square up with them, and he's gonna demand that element of respect. He typically uses a 3-4-2-1 or a 3-4-1-2. He has a high defensive line. He emphasizes wing-back use, and again, man-to-man marking and overloading, bro. Overloading. You need to be... This is why Gasperini loves rotation. This is why on Fantacalcio it's really hard to choose Atalanta players back in the day. No, because they start one game and they don't start the other.
Right,
why? Because if he starts every single time, they'll all tear their ACLs.
You'll make your captain and he'll chuck him out at halftime.
Exactly. So that is what you get with him. Now, how will that translate in Rome with a massively passionate fan base who have been through super low lows with the Mourinho era, losing Mourinho that broke their hearts, and then they got De Rossi, yay! But is he gonna be good? He was good, yay! He got us to the Europa League final, yay! Oh my god, he hasn't won a game yet. It's been 8 games in Serie A in his first full season after they renewed his contract. Boo!
Indeed.
Oh my god, you lose him. That's upsetting.
Yeah.
De Rossi's a legend. How dare you do that? Boom, their CEO resigns after that. Then they get Juric. What the hell? Juric is struggling. He's probably worse than De Rossi has been.
Racist chant.
Juric sucks. So they instantly, after 2 months, sacked. Bring in Ranieri. Holy fuck. Yeah. They go 19 games undefeated.
Yeah, everyone's getting him tattooed on their bicep.
Literally, he's a hero in Rome. He was linked with the Azzurri job. They were 1 point away from getting Champions League. After, with the latter two, the earlier 2 managers that I mentioned, they were relegation candidates. So Roma have been through all that, and now they get this profile Gasperini that I just mentioned. How will this translate? What do you think?
So, first of all, I think it's going to be supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Oh, fuck, okay.
Yes, no. I think it can go 2 ways, one of 2 ways. So, as you correctly said, Roma's piazza, as they call it, their fan base, is very, very demanding. And they're very opinionated, and they really value their own. So, Gasperini doesn't have any cultural roots to Roma, any deep cultural roots to Roma at all. So
I think they dislike him.
They dislike him simply because of the whole Indica situation. I don't know if you remember, but he had complained that the game was postponed or something.
It turns out Ndika got a stitch, bro.
Fucking hell. Of course, after Ndika collapsed, for those of you who are listening and don't know. So I think that there's this thing going around right now that they're getting someone who's an authoritarian in the dressing room and whose values don't align with the values of Rome, for example. But of course, this crap will all change if he starts off winning and if he has a good season, right? All of a sudden, he'll become one of their own. Yes. I don't know how the players will react to him. Some of them already know him. Of course, we're talking Brian Cristante, we're talking Mancini. They already know him. The question is, how will he handle the likes of Dybala? Will Dybala stay? How will he handle the likes of Lorenzo Pellegrini, whose confidence is shot? And I don't think that Gasperini will put up with his shit, to be honest. He doesn't care if he's a Roman. He'll play those who deserve to play. I don't know how it will go. The thing is, the 3-year contract implies that they're going to give him time. If things don't go well and the crowd gets rowdy, are they going to stick through that chaos and continue to trust their man?
It's a bit different now. I don't think they'll be so quick to make decisions like, let's sack him if it doesn't go well, because they have Ranieri as an advisor, and Ranieri is that cool head, that cool local head that did so well at Roma, and the Friedkins are a little bit foreign to it. So I think the fact that they kept him on board is, we're going to show this guy as much trust as possible. So Ranieri will be there to keep the heads calm and to trust in the project. Look, they gave the guy a 3-year a 3-year contract, so they'll definitely attempt at least to give him more time. The thing is, it's either going to, if he does well, they're gonna love him. But if he goes in, doesn't get off to a flyer, and starts clashing with players and the media, it can go sour very, very quickly. It's very volatile. It's almost 50-50. It's like the flip of a coin.
I can already envision a comment made by Totti in the press,
exactly.
Stuff.
But technically, from a formation perspective, from a player perspective as well, you put Roma in a 3-4-2-1 or a 3-5-2 next to the Atalanta team, profile-wise, it is quite similar. With the way that they work their back three, with their wing backs, of course, with Angelino, but he might leave apparently, and with
Mancini and Dika
at the back, alongside whoever else they bring in, with Dovbyk up front. He's worked with likes of Duvan Zapata, who's quite similar to Dovbyk in that sense. Stylistically, it works. One thing that he has is he can really improve players. He can bring in a player that no one's ever bloody heard of, or a player that is washed, and make him brilliant again. Who's to say that Pellegrini
doesn't break out again
under Gasperini? Changes his system or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, we saw him bring Charles De Ketelare back to life, so anything is possible in reality. Yes, bro. This is an exciting one, right? I think with Gasperini, you look at that period at Atalanta from 2016 to 2025. You look at the fact that with that Atalanta side, he eventually in total racked up 53% wins and 2 points per game, which is, to be honest, extraordinary consistency over 9 years. So, considering where they came from, if they give him a say in scouting and recruitment, maybe slap a clause on his contract, resale 3%.
Then he might actually take it seriously.
Exactly. No, I think this is interesting.
It's
of course, this isn't a prediction episode totally, but what will you rate it?
Let me just ask you this question.
Okay.
Before I do that. This is a really good question. So can Gasperini obviously replicate his Atalanta magic, but in a more traditional big club environment like Roma, or will the pressure prove too much? And I'll add context to this question. It's because you remember how he handled Papu Gomez.
Yeah.
Imagine he handles a Roma player like that. Imagine that's Dybala.
You know what it was?
What happens there?
With the whole Papu Gomez situation, the club backed Gasperini. And that's the thing.
That's the difference.
That's the difference.
That's the difference.
Roma should be backing Gasperini no matter what, no matter who it is at the moment, because he's the man they've chosen. Now we don't know how they'll react. Now, when you look at his managerial career, he had Crotone, Genoa, Inter, Palermo, Genoa, Atalanta, and now Roma. that stint at Inter stands out as the disaster, right? They only gave him
Yeah.
a season. You can't do
And
that.
it was after the treble-winning season.
I think this is kind of like the step up he deserves from Atalanta, and it's a step up in a historical
Yeah.
context, of course,
Mhm.
because currently
Pedigree.
pedigree context. Even when you look at the fan base, you step into the Olympico, it's going to be amazing for him. I mean, this is a completely new experience, and I think he will be dying to do well, to prove himself at another club, to really show him, like, listen, I've come a long way since my Inter spell. I did bits at Atalanta, and I can do it now at anywhere at the top. Like, so I think he will be eager to do well, and I think he will do well, to be honest.
I agree. Shall we jump to the rating?
I'll give this one an 8.
Ooh, I'm gonna go... Okay, we're different in this one. I'm gonna go 7.5.
Very different house, yeah.
No, I was gonna go 7, but it's a bit too negative. Even though 7's a positive rating. But 7.5, that... The only reason it's not a fucking 9 is because of the guy's personality and how Roma's fans might react to that. That's the only reason. Because, man, I really like Roma. I love Roma as a club. I love their fans. I love Cesco. I love Totti. Shout out Cesco. I love Roma as a club. I love the city. I love being in Rome. I love the Colosseum. I love the Roman Empire. I just really want it to work. And they have Gasperini, who looks like Julius Caesar. And I'm really fucking hoping it works, man.
That would be an episode artwork. That should have been the episode artwork of this one.
Fuck, man.
Went for Sarri instead.
Well, for match day 1.
Yeah.
For match day 1, if Roma get off to a flyer, then we'll do that basically.
Emperor Gasperini, so he loses every game after.
I just really hope it works, bro. But with Gasperini moving to Roma, Atalanta were like, after 9 seasons with the same guy, it's sad that Atalanta and Gasperini have parted ways. They won the Europa League with him. He made them a top Serie A team. He made them of the Seven Sisters, man. A Champions League team, you know what I mean? But now it's exciting. It's their first time without Gasperini in 9 years. Are they going to remain a top club? Is their scouting network and their management and this and that and their players enough to keep them going without Gasperini? They have a chance to hire someone, and they went for Ivan Juric.
So alright, I think what happened over here is Atalanta overthought it, overcomplicated it, and ended up thinking that this was the safest decision
Exactly,
they could make.
bro.
Because Juric worked under Gasperini at Genoa, of course, from 2006 to 2010, and he was also coached by Gasperini at Crotone from 2003 to 2006.
The chicken and the egg, huh?
He is the closest thing to Gasperini in reality. He uses the same formation, he's more pragmatic in reality, same man-to-man marking in midfield, same intensity wing play and verticality. The thing that sticks out, of course, is this Ivan Juric season and downfall that we've seen. Because he was alright at Torino.
It was
a stabilizer.
Yes,
He made them a very tough side. Especially after they had been fighting relegation for the seasons before he took over. Now, just to give you a bit of stats, he joined Roma, he had 3 wins, 1 draw and 4 losses in Serie A. Then he went to Southampton where he had 1 win, 1 draw and 12 losses. Not exactly great. It doesn't exactly scream, I'm going to continue Gasperini's legacy, at Atalanta. But in reality, and then, on the other hand, is Atalanta might be open to giving him time because they've seen what time can do to a man, and they've seen that this guy is the closest thing we can get to Gasperini. But the good thing going, we couldn't keep him, so might as well go for the closest thing.
I think that it's almost unfair, the season that Juric had. I don't think Juric should have ever accepted that Roma job because he walked into a team that wasn't set up for his style, in a very turbulent atmosphere, and he is not a firefighter. He's not going to go in and solve relationship problems between the fans and the management and the players.
Yeah.
He's not going to create an atmosphere that is burning. He's not going to bring it back to life and make everyone fall in love. That's not Juric. And the team simply wasn't set up for him. So he walked in destined for failure. So they sacked him immediately. I think he only had 8 games with them.
Yeah,
or 9
so
games with them. 2 months.
8, yeah.
8 games
In Serie A.
in Serie A.
Yeah.
2 months, let's say 2 months. And then he has another decision to make. He's going to go to the Premier League, which is very, very, very different, again towards the end of the season, and he joins Southampton, who are destined for relegation. Just to show you how destined for relegation Southampton were, is in the past 2 seasons in the Premier League, who went up, went down. Who got promoted, got relegated. Secondly, it meant that if he had to survive, he had to get more points than Tottenham and United with Southampton. He was absolutely destined for failure.
That's so
over
true,
there.
actually.
So Juric is almost unfairly rated by the mainstream media and the Premier, like all laughing at him because it's the worst team in Premier League history, following an 8-match failed spell at Roma. But at the end of the day, I think he's a solid manager and he did solid things at Torino. And I think with time, he can get Atalanta, who are a well-drilled team. He can get them to play similarly to how they played with Gasperini. Of course, he needs time with them, and I'm confident that they will give him time. It won't be perfect, but neither was Gasperini. Gasperini had some seasons where he came 7th, came 6th.
I don't like it, man. I don't like it. I mean, this doesn't inspire me at all. Atalanta have a good thing going right now. They finished comfortably in top 4 this season. Let's look at his time at Torino. I mean, granted, mid-table team, he stabilized them, whatever, 36% win rate. He's got Southampton, 13% win rate. When he was at Mantua, 37% win rate. Hellas Verona, 29% win rate.
No, he's not a good team, huh?
21% win rate. Crotone, 56% win rate. But, it's just... I would have much preferred to see Atalanta go for a bolder profile, I mean, another manager who's available, who is who's become a bit of a top 4, who had become a bit of a top 4 kind of specialist, let's put that in inverted commas, of course, is Pioli, man. Why didn't they go for Pioli? I think Pioli would have really suited Atalanta.
And that was...
I think that's
I
what
said
they over.
that. I think that Pioli was the perfect fit for Atalanta.
I think they overthought it, man.
I think Palladino would have been a good fit. I think that Motta would have been a good fit. I think that now...
Spalletti is available.
Spalletti, I was about to say, but that news broke out 2 days ago. They had already made their decision on Juric. But it seemed like they didn't even consider anyone else. It's almost like they went... Juric, and they got Juric. With Milan, you saw a bit of De Zerbi talk, a bit of Motta talk, and then they went for Allegri. And with most of teams, you saw them considering other options. How can they be that confident? They just look at that guy.
It's like,
that guy who has, I think in total, he has 4 or 5 wins last season.
Yes. It's like you had a ginger girlfriend and she left you. And now you're just looking around to find another ginger girlfriend. Go for a blonde, man. Go for a brunette. Fine, so go try something new,
Try a guy, man.
Try a guy.
Go for a guy. Suck a dick.
Oh my God.
You know what worries me? They have Champions League and they're walking out there with Juric.
Yeah, man. I mean, many things worry me about this, to be honest.
Look, I'm trying, because all I've been reading are cons. I just wanted to give the pros. I don't think highly of disappointment.
No.
I just think that it is true that there's a lot of recency bias when it comes to him. People are underrating him a lot. It's not to say that he is the perfect fit for Atalanta. He is a fit because he's similar in that sense to Gasperini, but Atalanta should look bigger and better to continue to evolve as that team, as that new modern team that has entered the top flight of Serie A, entering the Champions League, and Juric is your guy who has no essential Champions League experience. It's a risk, It's a risk.
It's a massive risk, bro. Rating?
So I gave Kivu a 5 at Inter.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I think Atalanta, I'll go 5.5.
I'll go 5. Same as Kivu. Yes.
Okay.
5.5.
0.5 extra for the Torino experience and for the similarities to Gasperini.
Yeah.
And the fact that... Sorry, I'm going to say one more thing, man. Another thing in favor of this. Because I've seen this Atalanta management do the boldest shit, man. To say him and it works, and him and it works. The fact that they were so sure of him again, bro. Who's to say that Atalanta don't Atalanta the fuck out of Juric?
Because it's shocking because they make such smart decisions all around. I've hardly ever seen them flop. Like in reality, like the Jeremy Boga signing comes to mind when you think of Bucker, but like they hardly ever miss. So surely they must be doing the right thing.
They were so confident.
Yeah.
Juric, that was the guy with the guy that spent 2 months at Roma and got fired, and the guy that led the worst team in Premier League history to relegation. Him,
please.
It says something for me because this is Atalanta we're talking about.
Absolutely.
Lazio. I was a bit surprised that Lazio and Baroni mutually parted ways. I thought that it was almost a guarantee that there were going to be certain growing pains. I said for a certainty last season that in these specific episodes that Lazio aren't going to be in any European football next season. It was in my prediction and everything. But a mutual termination of his contract between Baroni and Lazio. And Lazio have gone back to Sarri. Sarri, who has done great things at Lazio, finished second with Lazio in the past. They played Sarri ball. I think Lazio had almost mastered Sarri ball with the squad that he had. He walked out essentially because of Tare. And the fact that Tare isn't there anymore gives him an environment where he could have those guarantees that weren't stripped away from him and handed to Tare. Those responsibilities that weren't given to Tare instead of him, basically.
And he resigned due to frustration over the lack of transfers. The transfer inactivity as well. That was a massive.
Yes.
And apparently this time he's been assured a more robust transfer budget, which is quite exciting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's another 2-year contract, an option for a third.
Is it? Because I couldn't find any information.
Apparently it's 2-year with option for a third from what I find.
Okay.
And he resigned in March 2024.
Mm-hmm. I think that this will be the shortest conversation we have because we've seen it. We've seen it. We liked it. Of course, it's a different team. The last time he was there, it was Ciro Immobile up front with Sergei Milinkovic-Savic and Luis Alberto in midfield. Philip Anderson. But of course, he's worked with Zaccagni, he's worked with Hila, he's worked with Romagnoli, he's worked with these guys. I think this was a safe choice by Lazio and a good one at that, man. A good one. I like this move for them. I think he fits. It's a 4-3-3 system that they know. It's a 4-3-3 system that they're essentially playing with Baroni as well. Well, a 4-2-3-1 rather. I like it. What do you think?
So Baroni's football was very reactive, right? He absorbed pressure. He hit teams on transition. And his Lazio were surprisingly aggressive and vertical, to be honest. And they often bypass midfield, you know what I mean, through power and pace. Very direct, very exciting, right? And got off to a great start. So I share the sentiment with you that I'm surprised that he wasn't given a second season, judging by how good the first half of this season was under Baroni.
And how well he handled certain turbulent situations. The 6-0 loss to Inter.
Exactly, and the fact and how well he did in Europe as well. But yes, then we get Sarri, who wants total control of the game. He's like a control freak now.
Yes, bro.
He wants to control the ball. He wants to keep the ball, create overloads on one side, shift quickly, open up space, pass the ball, 1-2s, technically give
God,
to
he's going to make Rovella world class.
His last stint at Lazio saw 139 games managed, 67 wins, 30 draws and 42 losses. Okay.
Sorry, can you repeat them?
Of course, 139 games, 67 wins, 30 draws and 42 losses. Pretty good. At Juve in 2019-2020, he had 52 games, 34 wins, 9 draws, 9 losses.
Can you keep in mind Serie A champion?
Yes.
Serie A
exactly.
champion and almost multiple Serie A champion, because he got very close with Napoli as well. Of course, Serie A champion, for those of you that don't know, with Juve.
What does Sarri give you in the absence of European football? He gives you a little bit of pull. Because he's a manager with a good system and players will be attracted to be part of that style. One of the cons of Sarri is his rotation, right? So while Baroni was rotating the team week after week, Sarri will most likely stick to the same 11. However, once again, playing once a week puts him in quite an advantageous situation because he can get to know the players, can develop his starting 11, start to implement his style and push for that top 4 potentially finish in a season where anything seems to be up for grabs.
Yes. It's going to be interesting because much like Inzaghi, he needs particular players to operate and to play Sarri ball. And of course...
I think some of them are already there, man.
Yeah, some of them are there. Rovella and Guendouzi are good. They might want to get their hands on Loftus-Cheek, and I think they can revive Loftus-Cheek. I think Loftus-Cheek can be an important player for Lazio if they get him. I don't know if there are any rumours or anything like that, I think it would be a good move.
He managed him at Chelsea,
He managed him at Chelsea, and he was great at Chelsea.
Yeah.
He won a Europa League with Chelsea as well, Sarri. Let's not forget. Sarri is a champion. Europa League. Scudetto. With Napoli... Everyone in the world was talking about Napoli, the way that he got them to play. And he wasn't far off with Lazio. Second, Lazio are almost like the Spurs, so to say. That they always miss out. They never win trophies technically because they won the Coppa a few times, so maybe that's harsh on them. But second it wasn't on anyone's what do you say? It wasn't anyone's prediction, basically.
On anyone's bingo card.
On anyone's bingo card, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, there isn't really much to add. What would you rate this, bro?
I'm not gonna give it you go first. I've been going first.
I'll give it an 8, man.
I won't give it an 8. Just because they went back to Sarri, and for some reason I don't always think it's optimal for a team to go back to a manager, because I think that when a team decides to move on from a manager, it's because they want to pursue something new. If they go back to the manager, it shows that what they were trying to pursue is a failure. In this case, it's a little bit different because Sarri walked out. So I'm going to give it a 7.5 again.
And the difference here is the fact...
I'm going to give it an 8. The guy's a champion. He won the Europa League. He knows the club. It's an 8.
They've given him guarantees. Apparently, they said we'll give you the players you want. That's great,
it's an 8.
For Lazio,
It's an 8.
It's like you leave your wife. Here we go. You leave your wife because
she hurt you, man. She fucking hurt you.
She hurt you. No, I was gonna say maybe she doesn't give you enough. But she takes you back and she promises to give you more.
We're talking kids or blowjobs?
I'm talking anything. Anything you want it to be. Understand what you want to understand. Life is an illusion, listener.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
So
this takes us to Baroni, right?
Baroni left Lazio and he's gone straight to Torino. And you know what I say?
From Lotito to Cairo.
Poor guy. But can I just say, from Verona to Lazio to Torino, he is where he should be at this point. Perhaps it should have been Verona, Torino, Lazio. But Lazio took a punt on him. In my opinion, he did well. He did well when they lost those key pieces. And I think suddenly from Torino taking a punt on Verona's manager, Torino are saying, fuck yes, we got Lazio's manager.
Yes. And in reality, I was thinking to myself, should Fiorentina maybe have considered Baroni? In reality,
yes.
Baroni, his record against teams that were above them in the league was mostly disappointing.
Above Lazio.
Yes, and that's off-putting, when you're looking at a team who finishes notoriously season after season in the Conference League. You're thinking we're going to have another season where we're going to get Conference League, when in reality I think they would want to aim higher. In 38 games at Lazio last season, Baroni managed 18 wins, 11 draws and 9 losses.
Can I just say they also had a worse team than the teams above them? Just to say it.
Who?
Lazio.
Lazio had a worse team than the teams above them.
5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and
yes,
1st
yes,
have a
yes,
better
yes,
team
yes,
than
fair.
Lazio.
Fair
Bro,
enough.
Milan and Bologna probably
Yes.
have a better team than Lazio on paper.
Of course,
I don't know. Anyway.
Baroni was known for rescuing and promoting clubs. Lecce from Serie B, Hellas Verona saved them from relegation. He kind of has become an offensive manager from a very cautious one. So we've seen that he can do both very well.
Exactly.
Which is interesting for him at Torino because he has the squad to do either, depending on the matchup.
When I was doing my research on him, every managerial profile that I found on him description had him as a super pragmatic and defensive manager, which surprised me.
Because he was with minnow sides.
At minnow sides, yes, but is him at Lazio last year, bro?
He went mental.
Attacking.
He was like, these guys can attack. He's like, fuck it, we're going to do it.
Exactly.
Anyone, no matter
almost
what.
too much. He lost 6-0 to Inter.
Yeah.
Got fucking destroyed.
Almost like Malta, Netherlands.
My God, 8-0, boys.
8-0. By the way, Netherlands 9 shots on target, just FYI.
Jesus Christ.
8 of them went in. XG of 4.
We need to try out Altuma, I think his name is.
No, that's Basil Tuma. You're mixing it up. Altuma, I think. Yeah, the other keeper. Basically.
Let's try him out. Even though I'm not going to blame it solely on Henry, but whatever.
Yes. I think maybe going as well 4 at the back against the Netherlands was kind of audacious from our fucking
The
manager,
Netherlands, bro.
From our manager who looks like the guy from Peep Show.
David Mitchell.
Yeah.
Crazy, man. It's true.
You know Baroni's mantra, by the way. I found it on Google. On Google. You play as you train.
Fuck yes.
Nice
Well,
little mantra.
like,
But I wouldn't have chosen that one. Huh? What would your mantra be, bro, as a
it
football
depends.
coach?
What do we mean by mantra?
Like
a mantra is something I say to myself when I'm on a 21k run and I want to kill myself after 7k.
Something you say to your players to motivate them all the time. Like David and Nicholas is like my son. You know?
What's my mantra to my players? Fucking, I don't know, man. The tough body, cool mind.
That's a good one, actually.
Thank you, King.
Yes.
The gladiators, right?
I'll just open up Art of War and find one.
Yo,
something.
Someone used to do that. Huh? There was a manager that used to read the Art of War to...
Because it can be totally interpreted in the context of football.
Absolutely.
Totally, the whole thing.
Absolutely. Was it Brian Clough that used to do it? It could be Brian Clough. I might be talking shit. Baroni at Torino. I think
from Vanoli to Baroni.
From Vanoli to Baroni. From Juric to Vanoli to Baroni. I think the key thing we're seeing over here is only grey hair is first and foremost. Bro, do you want to have a serious conversation about Baroni at Torino? Allah. So they went from a super pragmatic manager in Juric to a super offensive manager in Vanoli to now someone that brings balance.
Yes.
And I think Torino have a good team. They have a good squad. Especially when Duvan Zapata gets back. I think Baroni can bring off some of that offensive nature according to the matchup that he had at Lazio. We can see some of that, and we can also see him steady the ship defensively a little bit, even though there's nothing to steady because they were always quite solid defensively. The thing is, it's hard to say because what's their goal? What's Torino's goal?
I think they'll push for perhaps
a
conference finish.
I
think this is what Baroni gives them, right? The ability or the hope rather for something higher because they're getting a manager who was close to doing it with Lazio. I think more than balance, it gives them adaptability. The fact that they're not going to they're going to give the teams higher than them a tough chance. They're going to lose to them. They're not going to get walked over.
Mm-hmm.
But this also gives them the opportunity to smash the teams below them, which Torino have lacked severely,
Mm-hmm.
And I think with the players they have, they've got Elmas, they've got Cassidy, they've got Ricci, they've got Shea Adams up front, Duvan Zapata coming back. They have some weapons that Baroni can work with, especially we saw how Nuno Tavares did well with Baroni. They have Lazaro.
In fact, one thing that Baroni likes is wide play.
And
so
feet.
he
Wide play, go on.
He likes wing play. He had his fullbacks surprisingly delivered the highest amount of crosses in Serie A last season. A counter-attacking threat, which of course I don't anticipate Torino will spend much time on the ball, particularly when playing against the top 7 teams. And he also has this attack is the best form of defense mentality, which will work in. I think it can help Torino. Because it gives them some element of identity, which I feel like that they've lacked under the past 2 managers. And then the defensive solidity and the adaptability and work ethic. He's a man that people respect. He's a man that people trust. And I think the locker room can really get behind Baroni. I think
so too.
They made a really good acquisition here. And I think for Torino standards, I can give this an 8.
Same. I give it an 8. A very intelligent snipe after he was let go by Lazio. This takes us to Cagliari.
Yes, and I'm sorry, bro, you're going to need to take over from here. I might as well have a quick nap.
So this is Fabio Pisacane. Some of you might remember him as a player. He was gritty, he was tenacious, he was disciplined, he was a defender. He wasn't very technically gifted, but he was extremely committed. He was known for his work ethic, his bravery, and his leadership skills. He famously overcame a rare neurological disease as a child and later became a symbol of resilience.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, Guillain-Barré syndrome. I don't know if you want to look this up in the meantime. Tell me exactly you're going to be a doctor.
Doc. Guillain, did you say?
Guillain.
I'm sure that's not what it's called.
I'm sure I'm mispronouncing it, but that's why I'm not in medicine. Guillain.
Oh, that looks like Guillain.
Guillain.
It's a syndrome. Yes, it's a syndrome.
So maybe you can read up on it and tell us what it's all about. And he also became a symbol of anti-corruption in Italy after he refused to take part in a match-fixing scandal a match-fixing opportunity, let's call it, in 2011, and he earned widespread respect for it.
It would have been funny, bro. I just called my friend who's a doctor. I called Pants. I think it was the breakdown of it. Yeah. So in short, the Guillain-Barré syndrome is GBS. It's a muscle weakness caused by the immune system damaging the nervous system.
Yo, that's fucking terrible.
It's pretty heavy.
Yeah, but what a legend.
I want to find out, like, what happens to you. What happens if you have Guillain? Guillain what?
Guillain.
I was going to say Guillain syndrome.
Barre syndrome. B-A-R-R-E
syndrome. What happens? It's rare, but a serious neurological disorder where your immune system mistakenly attacks the nerves.
Yeah.
It usually starts with weakness and tingling in the legs and can progress quickly, sometimes leading to full paralysis.
Wow, man.
Oh, shit.
How can you... I'm happy you overcame it, but...
Hey.
Yeah.
Weakness can spread to upper body and arms. In severe cases, can affect both muscles. Affect breathing muscles. This is a medical emergency. Some people lose the ability to walk or move entirely. It's kind of like, in a weird way, ALS. Like it eats at you slowly, man.
That's the vibe I'm getting. But anyway, what can we expect from Fabio Pisacane as a manager, right? So first of all, he plays a 4-3-1-2 or a 4-3-3, usually. He has long been embedded in Cagliari's setup. He was there as a player from 2015 to 2021, making 153 appearances. And then he was a coach in the youth teams, including a brief interim spell with the senior side in December 2022. He took full charge of the Primavera under 19, the Primavera who are the under 19s in June 2023 and guided them to stability and narrowly missed promotion playoffs last year. He did also lead them to Primavera Cup glory, beating Milan 3-0 in 2025 this season. Yes. So rather than seeking an experienced outsider, Cagliari have invested in someone deeply rooted in their culture, who can hopefully transmit what it means to play for the badge to the players. I think that this is a stage at Cagliari where these moves make more sense than, for example, at Inter, where we're giving Kivu, we're taking a risk with Kivu.
I don't know, bro.
Because this guy has...
A team like Cagliari gets it wrong, they're relegated.
That's the problem. However, he's going to have the full backing of the team because he is the equivalent of a club legend. Let's not call him a club legend, but let's call him someone who's loved by the fans, right? Who has a very good reputation. He is a uniter. He knows the ins and outs of the team. He knows the young talent as well coming up. You know, he might give them just enough experience. He might know the club just well enough for it to feel like it's not a new appointment. You know what I mean? And at this level, you can get away with it. You're playing once a week. Your objective mainly is to not lose too much. You know what I mean? You can get away with drawing and then winning a few games here and there.
Bro, I want it to work.
Kivu, on the other hand, man, like, because we can compare it to Kivu because it's kind of the same situation, right?
But
has to compete in the Champions League for the first time in his life.
Yes, but
he has to manage a full season at the first time in his life. At Inter.
But he has Bastoni, he has Barella, he has Lautaro Martinez.
He's never managed players of that caliber before. Never.
Yes, but they're definitely going to make his job a little bit easier.
Oh yes, for sure. But
I think that when
this guy finishes,
team goes for a risk like that, look at Monza with Nesta, for example. Instantly relegated. They came last because it simply didn't work. Because Nesta, perhaps, okay, there were bad decisions made by their management as well, to be completely honest, but it's a good example of what happens when you invest in young talent as a team that is already at risk of being in the bottom three throughout the season. Not saying it's definitely not gonna work, but a 39-year-old with no experience in Serie A going to Cagliari as a manager is fucking dangerous. It's dangerous because they survived so far with Ranieri and Davide Nicola, two veterans, essentially.
He, take nothing away from Davide Nicola, but Fabio Pisacane has that same kind of profile, where he transmits his energy, he makes the players believe, he makes the players die for him. That's the whole thing that they employ the true leader, someone who bleeds the shirt, someone who understands the value of the club. Now,
is it enough?
I don't know if it's enough, bro, but to be honest with you, if this guy finishes just outside of relegation, it's a success, right? If Kivu finishes 5th, it's a disaster. That's the difference.
Fuck Kivu and Inter.
Yeah.
Are these guys gonna survive with Fabio Pisacane? Is the question that concerns Cagliari.
The profiles that people have been going for around that relegation pool.
Jesus Christ, you want it to work. I can see it in you. You're dying for
No. Ignore that. Di Francesco. Would you go for Di Francesco? Back-to-back relegations. Would you go for someone like Gianpaolo who barely managed at Lecce? It was like 2 wins, I think, at the end. 1 win at the end that managed it. No, 2 wins. 2 wins at the end that managed to keep him.
I think both are risks also.
Both are risks. Everything is a risk. So why not go for one of your own who the people know already, the people feel comfortable around, they love? I don't know, man. I feel like there is some logic behind it, and I don't think it's the best appointment, but I don't think it's that bad. I think here we might have a different rating.
We are going to have a different rating. I'm going to go for a 4 on this.
A 4? I'm going to go for a 6.5.
6.5?
Yes.
It's Cagliari with a manager with no Serie A experience.
Yes. I know. I'm aware. But again, he seems to be very special, man, to them. I don't know. He seems... From what I've read, man, they hold him to a high regard. He seems like almost like a true leader, you know, and I really... I've been convinced of his leadership qualities, let's just say that.
But having good leadership qualities makes you a good manager?
I mean, it's a very important part of it. But also, his play, he's very balanced as well. We're not talking about
for the under 19s.
Yes.
I don't know. At least we saw Kivu do it with Parma. We haven't seen this guy around in Serie A. I think it's a huge risk that they're taking. And teams like this don't afford to take huge risks like that.
I agree with you. I mean, it is a massive risk. Is it a risk worth taking? Again, maybe not. Time will tell. They know what they've seen. And surely, bro, these teams, I mean, there's a lot on the line, you know. I mean, these weird hirings like Juric, Kivu, this guy Pizacane, they surely must know or must have an idea that we don't, you know. They must see something.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you're going to put the faith in your club who's been like clinging on to survival only just for a few seasons. You're going to put them in the hands of a 39-year-old without
crazy,
it seems crazy, but clearly they see something in him, man.
Mm-hmm.
And even the fact that his life was so difficult with this
Monza
thing.
got Nesta, and then they dropped Nesta to get Bocchetti, who's never won a game in Serie A before. And like, you'd think they must know something, and they knew fuck all.
Yeah,
they didn't know what they were doing. So it could be either or, right?
It could.
I don't know.
We'll see.
We'll see.
I'm Pizacane in.
I hope it works. I'm Pizacane in, but I think it's an incredible risk, man. It's an incredible risk. Where did my notes go? Let's discuss Fiorentina a little bit, because Fiorentina are close to Pioli, and I think Pioli is a good shout for most Serie A teams. I think if you're a Serie A team that are 8th and above and you're not considering Pioli, I think you're doing something wrong, because Pioli has shown us that with limited resources, he can win you the league. If Junior Messias is your right winger, he can win you the league. You know what I mean? He constructed, or rather fielded, a very good 11 that season. And not only that, but before Pioli came to Milan were knee-deep into their banter era. Of course, Gattuso was somewhat of the stabilizer, but then Milan were quickly taken back down with the appointment of Giampaolo, but he came in after Giampaolo got Milan Champions League every single season. Stroke of luck in one of them, because of Juve's docked points, but he got Milan Champions League every single season. People love him. He has 2 tattoos on his body. One is for the Scudetto that he won with Milan, the 19th, and the other one is of Davide Astori, because while he was coaching Fiorentina, Davide Astori passed away when they were at a hotel
training camp or
in
something,
pre-season. I believe it was pre-season, yes. And Pioli apparently was inconsolable and got a tattoo of him on his body. I believe the number 13. So he's returning to Fiorentina, and he knows the team, he knows the club, and he's a champion. He's won the Scudetto before. He's a Champions League semi-finalist. This would be a great appointment by Fiorentina. It's not done yet. Other profiles are Gilardino and Aquilani. Not too sure about Aquilani, but I rate Gilardino really highly, and I think something around Fiorentina is his level. And he played there before. Perhaps a Torino job would be better before. But I hate how he doesn't have a job yet this season.
I mean, even to be honest, a minnow side would be... He hasn't really proven anything. He just showed us that he can play a nice different variety of styles of football, to be honest. He needs to back it with results. By the way, Astori died during the season.
I remember, because there were, like, it came to me. There was a game that was postponed after that.
In fact, he died in Udine, in the hotel. But I agree with you that Pioli is a no-brainer. It's a return for him. He's already been there, right? He's grown as a manager. He's won things, so why not go for him? You know, I mean, you'll have one of the only Scudetto winners in the league. Again, there will be 4 clubs, and there'll be one of them, right? 4. Because Conte, Allegri, Sarri, and Pioli. I don't think anyone else in the league has...
You're right.
Yeah. I would put them as one of the only 4 teams who have someone as a manager.
I think it's a no-brainer, and if they do it, I'll give it an 8.
Yes.
Like, genuinely.
Same. Aquilani, fucking 5.
Like 3, man.
Yeah,
I know nothing about him as a manager. I really want to use the segue of Pioli to go to Nazionale, but it makes sense that we finish the clubs first. No, Nicola to Lecce, let's just say you know exactly what to expect. What did Nicola bring to Cagliari? What did Nicola bring to Salernitana? What did Nicola bring to Empoli? What did Nicola bring to Dale?
But why? But why would he do that?
But clearly, this is what he enjoys doing.
Yeah.
Clearly.
I mean, to be honest,
This is where he thrives.
you're gonna do it. You've just done it at Cagliari. What a vibe! Now you're gonna go to Lecce. What a vibe! Like it's just vibe bouncing, vibe hopping.
Literally.
I mean, I think Lecce have a worse squad than Cagliari. I think Lecce are harder to keep up than Cagliari. So we'll see if he can do it. He is a miracle man, and this would be a fantastic appointment for Lecce. A tricky gig for Nicola.
Yes, and once again, we're seeing Nicola only for the third time that I can remember starting a season. Last season, he started the season at Cagliari. He saved them from relegation maybe 2-3 matches before the end of the season. I believe 3 matches before the end of the season. And he didn't get sacked, which is brilliant because at Salernitana, when he had started the season, he had gotten sacked at them. And otherwise, he always came in to save. Like, he had come in initially to save Salernitana. He came in to save Empoli. He had come in to save Crotone as well back in the day. But now he might start another season with Lecce. And I think this would be... It's a no-brainer for Lecce. It's a no-brainer. They almost got relegated for the past 2 seasons. So they have to bring in someone that literally has a record of bringing a team together for a strong fan base that is likely not going to get you relegated.
This season they survived thanks to a bloody miracle. It was a miracle that they survived.
Beyond a miracle, bro.
So going for the miracle man might as well continue with it.
I think that's all we can say, right?
Yes. I mean, it's they're probably praying to God they can get him.
Hey.
They're probably trying to see what guarantees they can offer him because I doubt with the resources they have, Nicola's going to find it a very attractive offer.
I agree. If Pioli goes to Fiorentina, which I'm hoping is the case, and the Nazionale don't get Pioli, it's being linked that they just go with any motherfucker that won the World Cup in 2006.
Apparently,
and the top 3 runners are De Rossi, but since he's been linked with Cremonese, look at the duality of the offers that he has in front of, the duality of options he has in front of him, right? Cremonese or the Italian national team. And then there's Gattuso and Cannavaro. I mean, if I had to choose from those 3, I'd go De Rossi. I think De Rossi is the best manager out of those 3. Take nothing away from Gattuso. I think he's done a good job here and there. But definitely De Rossi for an offensive brand of football and a solid brand of football as well. Solid defensively. I don't know, man. To be honest, every single option sucks. And now there's whispers of Mourinho. Can I just say something? How the fuck did Italy? Because Spalletti has been walking on a tightrope for ages. How do they let Ancelotti go to Brazil, man? How do they let Ancelotti go to Brazil? Because Ancelotti is the king of the... He's a record man. He's gonna go there and win the World Cup. And Italy aren't gonna make the World Cup.
Yeah.
That's what's gonna happen.
I can't believe it, to be honest.
I'm a record man.
They had their manager. That's how they let him go. Italy has never been managed by a non-Italian. Never ever. And they're not going to do it now.
No.
They're not going to go for someone who's non-Italian. It's going to be a former player. And it's going to be weird. Now, I know the standard at international level is different. But nowadays, we've seen the caliber really improve, in my opinion. We have some good bloody managers managing at international level. For me, if I had to pick someone from that 2006 group, I think I'd go for De Rossi.
Right?
Yeah.
I think I'd go De Rossi too.
And if not, Cannavaro.
You're gonna go Nesta.
No,
But
I mean, to be honest, they've all
Nesta.
done they haven't done shit yet, all of them.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you're gonna put all the...
Gilardino on the World Cup, man. Here we go again.
You're gonna put all the pressure in the world on these former players to save your World Cup drought, like.
The only way it makes sense to get a former player, pinch of salt, I'm almost, get Grosso, bro.
Yeah.
Just throw
Throwing Grosso.
throw it Grosso. So he'll just scream in your face, go mental, and you'll win the whole thing.
Non ci credo.
Non ci credo.
They should go for Pioli.
They
I
should
mean,
go for Pioli.
that's
They
the...
should. Then, look,
Ballardini.
At the end of the day, people tend to overcomplicate the managerial appointments they make at international level. Because if you get a tactician, it's not gonna work. And I'll tell you why. Because he doesn't have that much time to work with the players. Not much time to implement his system. You need a manager. You need a manager that's going to bring in, inform current players that are doing well, put them together, balance them out, and get the best out of them. That's what you need. You don't need a tactician. You're telling me that Argentina's manager that won the World Cup and Spain's manager that won the Euros, I don't even know their names. I think Scaroni of Argentina, I think Della something of Spain. You're telling me they're the best managers in the world, the best tacticians? No. They know how to work with a squad of good players and get the best out of them. And who to appoint as the leader and how to get someone out of a rut.
Yeah.
You don't need a fucking insane manager. Lippi ta won it for Italy.
Also, by the way, as an option, Gattuso has way more experience than most of those guys.
Yes. Gattuso is the
main candidate
favorite out of those three.
Right now,
I just prefer De Rossi.
For
the Italian national team.
It's true. I'm looking here at the list of available Italian coaches: Motta, Mazzarri, Palladino, Vanoli, Pecchia, Gilardino, Ballardini. I mean, not the best selection.
You also kind of want them to be good at knockout competitions, which none of these guys have positive track record of. They're cooked, Italy are cooked, bro.
They're cooked, man. Children are growing up not knowing what it feels like. They're growing up with the Malta experience, watching the World Cup without having your team in it.
How sad. Bro, you know how I think I'd read somewhere that Sacchi wants to come back.
Imagine that.
And he's like, 76 years old, man, Sacchi.
I thought he wanted to play again.
Imagine Sacchi at the national team.
He's 79.
He's 79. Fucking, he has a year left. What a way to go, bro.
What a way to go.
Get Italy in the World Cup. No, it can't be 3 years in a row that Italy don't make the World Cup.
Yeah, well...
I
got a bad feeling.
Yeah, because it goes to a playoff match and we know how those have been going.
Alright, man.
You kind of need someone that's good at knockout competitions, but then you kind of need someone that's good in league situations because of the Nations League and the qualifiers and this and that. So it's not as simple as getting a good knockout manager. They're going to go for Mourinho, let's be real. He's Portuguese.
I've changed my mind, I'd go for Gattuso.
You'd go for Gattuso. I'd still go De Rossi, man.
Because at least you have someone who's been in many different situations as a manager. At least. De Rossi has a limited amount of experience. Doesn't even have a full season. Gattuso managed the full season at Milan. Missed out on Champions League by 1 point. I'm sure he had runs in the Coppa Italia or in the Europa League. I'm not even sure, to be honest. I don't have my stats prepared, but at least in different leagues as well, he's managed knockout tournaments, you know.
I can't believe Ancelotti's at Brazil and Italy need a manager.
That's ridiculous. That's true. How did they let this happen?
Who's that fucking GM or whatever, or CEO or whatever, or technical sports director of Italy? How's he still there, man? I've heard people talking about him. Gravina. I was quite sure it was Ira Losco's husband that he has 3 restaurants across Malta, Gravina. How is he still there? How does he let this shit happen, man?
But man, I think I don't fucking know, bro.
My co-host.
I don't know how you can let that happen. I mean, you miss 1 World Cup. It's already you should already be screaming crisis. but you missed 2 and now you lose 3-0 to Norway. You sack Spalletti and you're looking at the 2006 squad list trying to find the manager who would best suit the team.
Man.
It's a disaster. I don't know how this guy's still in our job, bro.
It's
Honestly, how else can I reply? But
like you sack Spalletti. He's the best option out of all the other managers that you have. Now, of course, you're not going to keep him because there aren't any better options, because clearly the team isn't responding to him. He's been hard-headed. He's tried to implement this tough style, no PlayStation. Insisting on playing a 3 at the back when his speciality is playing a 4 at the back. Insisting on playing Di Lorenzo. Insisting on calling up Meret time after time.
Or Solini's scoring literally like... It's almost like he joined the circus and learned the most acrobatic moves you can possibly learn. He's scoring for fun, like at the most prolific season, and he had to beg him to be called up.
So Spalletti out.
Yeah, he's been sacked. I'm not sure if it's wise, because he is a much better manager with all his flaws than the guys available. But we'll see what happens. Are you that bothered by the Italian national team? Are you? Are you a big fan of them? Because we love the Italian league, but I know most.
I mean, I support Malta. Right?
Malta's
first and foremost, and I watch and I follow and I love with all my heart. But for a lit summer, that's all it is to me. The Italian national team gives me a lit summer. The summer that Italy won the Euros was unforgettable, bro. I was drunk during the day. Every time Italy played, like outside in the sun, drinking beer. Yeah. It's fun. It's not fun. Too and bothered. It's not
the same without them. They're a staple of that tournament. You think like Germany, Brazil, you want to see Italy, you want to see
4 World Cups.
Of course, man.
4 World Cups. The most successful European team in the World Cup. I think Germany have 4 as well. Yes, they do. They both had 3 when we were kids. Now they both have 4 and we're adults. Anyway, I think we can end this episode here. Are we missing anything? No?
I don't think so, man.
Very good.
This was a good one,
It felt like it took ages. I don't know how to explain it. This is a wild episode. You just had porn open and I
No, that wasn't porn. That was Love Island.
I mean, same thing.
Yeah, I think the best part of this episode, to be honest, was realizing that Torino only employ managers with grey hair.
Hey. Fuck me, are we next week, just so we give them an update, I don't think we should do
what we planned to do.
Right. Because there's something. Let's have this conversation off air.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening again, guys. We love you so much. Keep on enjoying your summer. And if you're Maltese, swim. The water is nice now. It's not freezing. It's good. Love you all.
Thank you.
Ciao, ciao.
If you like Serie A or have ever liked it in the past, it's a good opportunity for you to listen once a week and you'll get filled in.
The football weekend, that's like the main dish. But then a few days later, you drop your episode and that's like the dessert. And the dessert is just perfect.
It's good, the cake.
It makes it feel like we're all sitting in a room together, just BSing with each other.
The atmosphere is fantastic.
I promise nobody will ask you to send boob pics.
Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
I love how you go into so much detail and show so much passion towards each and every team. Literally, no team is left undiscussed.
When I listen to you, it's like I'm talking to you in a pub. It's like I'm chatting to a friend and you're chatting to me.